Welcome everyone to our episode, Crisis Management in the Hospitality Industry. Some things we're going to talk about is what defines a crisis in the hospitality industry, and how do we keep calm under pressure? So that's going to be something that we're going to have Ray talk with us about as our front office manager and now our operations manager. He's handled a lot of crises. A lot in his 10 years of experience.
Yeah, quite a bit.
So Ray, why don't you start us off? Give us an example of a crisis and how you all overcame that.
Well, first, thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Being here.
No, I love it. I'll give you one that I think we all can remember. Not too long ago, we had a guest who was staying with us and decided to turn the hotel into his own personal water park.
Right.
He caused a water line to break because he was hanging things on his sprinkler head in his room.
Because why not?
Because why not? That's what it's there for, right?
That's right.
So it broke and it flooded 5 floors of the hotel. And, it happened late at night. So most people had gone home. Mm-hmm. So it was an emergency situation. So we had to, of course, immediately shut the water lines off.
Oh.
We had to prepare our team. We had to inform the guests that were staying there. We had to relocate some guests to other rooms.
They're not happy.
Yes. So, of course, compensating them.
Of course.
And then contacting the emergency response team to take care of the wall damages, the water damages, everything.
What a nightmare. But you know what? I remember that the team really overcame that, and it really drew us closer. And you know what? It's always like a fire alarm. Let's see what we do. And then you can kind of see what you're actually going to do under pressure. And I think they did really good.
They did a great job. In fact, the next morning we had evaluated the process just to make sure we didn't miss any steps. And we really saw that the time response was very minimal. It didn't take long to get the team up and going.
Yeah.
Everyone knew what to do. There was immediate communication. There was no lag. We had the response team here by 1 a.m. So
fantastic.
It was immediate. So it really showed that our team knew the policies, knew the procedures,
together, right?
And just pulled it together.
Oh, that is amazing. That is amazing. Well, that's about as high pressure as you can possibly get, right?
Yes.
SOPs are written just for those occurrences.
Exactly. These exactly are the reasons why we have SOPs.
Well, we also have had some recent weather-related issues. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Something that's happened, and it doesn't have to be here, just in your experience.
So a couple of years ago, I was working at another Marriott property, and late at night, it was during tornado season, if you lived in the state of Oklahoma, that's a pretty fun time. And working in hotels means you're not only responsible for your own safety, but the entire hotel. And
the most important thing in a hotel is our guest safety.
Absolutely. That is our priority. So we had a tornado in the area. And this was the one that came right over Jinx, came right over to Broken Arrow where we were. And then at that time, we were in the middle of our evacuation process. We're getting our guests to the safe locations. We're doing our announcements. We're doing our checks and balances of our reports to make sure every guest is accounted for. And just as it came to the hotel, it lifted. And passed over the hotel.
Goodness.
Yes. And I was just, my heart was beating because it was my first big one at this property. That was right here in my throat, just beating. So, we were very fortunate and very lucky. But again, our team knew the policies, they knew the procedures.
And they just stuck to it.
And they just pulled together and made it happen. And that's just wonderful.
Yeah. Tornadoes in Oklahoma is kind of a unique thing, right? I remember I was working at a downtown property and we had a lot of international guests. So from Asia, from Australia, different places. So a tornado was something interesting and something that was a tourist attraction for them. So we had them all in the hotel and it was downtown. So that tornado was coming right down 7th Street. And instead of the guests listening to us getting to a safe place, they've got their phones out and they're out in the middle of 7th Street taking videos. And it's like, no, you need to come in here. So sometimes I guess don't want to listen to you about being safe because they want to be a tourist.
Unfortunately, that is true. That's another thing that, when the guests want to take their own risk, you can't force them to do it, but you can advise.
You can do the best that you can.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope, but yeah, I've actually had a couple of guys do that similar, and I was just kind of like, well, all right.
All right. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you train your staff to be prepared for these kinds of events?
Yeah. So my team, we have a giant red binder. It's our emergency procedures binder.
That's the color you want your emergency binder to be. Gotcha.
Red, which stands out. It tells you this is an emergency. So Yes. We go over those in our monthly department meetings.
Good.
At the beginning of tornado season, we very much highlight the tornado procedures just to make sure we're on top.
Sure.
We always go over everything. We do practice drills in our meetings so that we know the appropriate response to certain codes, certain color codes, things like that. And then we have a safety committee here on property that is comprised of different members of our staff.
Yes.
And we review monthly our protocols and make sure that they're up to date, make sure that that the right contact information is registered for the emergency contact team so that the team is prepared with the correct information should something happen.
Yeah, just constantly going through those and going through practice. And then that way it's never stale. You don't ever forget. It's just always a constant reminder. So that's a really good thing. I remember this one, I have a very vivid memory of I think it was somebody in engineering that was recognized through MTHLA, which is an industry event here. And it was so wonderful because there was a fire, a potential fire in the hotel. Everybody had to be evacuated. And there was somebody that was in a wheelchair and they were like, I think on like the 12th floor, something crazy. Two engineers, they went up and they carried that woman all the way down 12 floors in the wheelchair.
Amazing.
So she would have it. And it's just, you don't think about all the different things that might happen to a guest where they could feel such fear, but we can make them feel safe and secure and not fearful. So, the people in the hospitality industry, everything that we do to make sure our guests are safe is important for the integrity and our brand management. It's also really important to those guests. And we always want them to feel safe.
No, absolutely. And it's also that connection as people, providing that sense of security and safety. I mean, kudos to those engineers that did that.
I know.
That's a lot
they
of
had to be
stairs
so
to
strong.
Yeah. And of course you don't want the person to feel like they're a burden. And so, you want them to feel like, hey, it's okay. We're here to take care of you. This is our job. This is what we're here to do.
That's exactly
This is not a problem for us.
Yeah. What do you think the hotel has learned and how we've adapted in some of these crises, or maybe even you personally?
I think it's important that we always remember that things change constantly. And it's always important for me that we always have the most up-to-date information, the most up-to-date contact numbers, because people change phone numbers all the time.
Right.
We don't want people to feel like they're not in the loop. So having the most up-to-date information, and then also making sure that all your new staff, especially your brand new staff, are aware that this is part of their integral training so that they get the right information up front if they're ever in that situation.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Do you think, what would your advice be for somebody coming into the hospitality industry about how to keep calm under these really stressful moments?
That's a great question.
Well, thank you. I thought of it myself.
I think the best advice I could give is that know that you're not alone, that there are a team of people here to help and assist. And if you have a question, of course, ask in advance. Ask these questions to your manager, to your supervisor, even to your HR director up front. Make sure that you know these procedures because it was always best to prepare for the worst, but hope for the best.
That's exactly right. It's not about perfection. It's about response. And that's what our guests want to see. They're like, it's okay if you need to apologize if mistakes happen, but they want to know that you care, you hear them, and you're responding to their immediate need. And we do a fantastic job of that here at Marriott Tulsa Southern Hills.
Yes, I actually agree. I guess expect things to happen.
They do.
Especially things beyond our control, weather especially, or other guests making their own renovation choices of property.
That's exactly right.
But it is how we respond to those situations that define who we are and what hospitality is to our property.
Okay. Have you ever had, because I know you've worked at many hotels, have you ever had any interesting issues with like celebrities or dignitaries? Don't share any names, but checking in at the last moment and like maybe what you had to do to kind of help them feel really secure.
It's so hard to pick just one.
Just one.
Just one. Okay. Okay, I'll give you this one.
Okay.
So at a property I worked at, and I can't say names, but this was a very well-known person.
Okay.
She was here working on a documentary, and her bodyguard arrived, a day before, and her itinerary was changing every 5 minutes.
Yes.
And, we were just kind of scrambling to make sure we met their needs. And then, of course, it would change. But when they did finally arrive, it was it was just me and one other person on the property at the time. So, I really had to get it together and meet all those needs immediately. But they never knew. They never knew that I was scrambling. They never
Perfect.
saw it. All they saw was that warm, accommodating smile and hospitality service that they knew was going to be there.
That's great. It's like that duck on the top of the water where your feet are constantly
Ex-
going, but all you see is calm,
That's
right?
all you see is calm.
Nothing to see here, folks.
Mhm.
Everything's good.
Yeah, that's right. What does Dory say? Just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming. And that's what we do in the hospitality industry. And honestly, that's what keeps it so much fun.
Yeah.
There's always something different. I've had some great experiences whenever I was at a downtown property that shall remain unnamed. There was a lot of guests that stayed that were performers. They were acts, and they would have to go in the back of the hall. We would have to, escort them to avoid the fans. That was always fun ones. We've had political dignitaries where we had to build a tent over the back of the hotel so they could just drive in and come in. So those kinds of things you just want to make sure that you're protecting the integrity of the people that are coming to your property. They are putting their trust in you, and you just want to make sure that everybody feels safe and protected. And I think that we do a really great job at that.
I think so too. And you hit it very, very well on the head. These VIPs need to trust our staff to know that we're going to take care of their privacy
Absolutely.
and their safety and security like we do all guests. But yeah, sometimes those VIPs require a little extra accommodation, and we are well equipped to make sure we take care of their needs.
We are.
So I have one more story about a celebrity that I'd
tell
like
me.
to share.
I can't wait to hear.
Of course, I can't name names, but I was working at a convention property, and this very famous celebrity had just done a movie, and he was there for a Comic-Con convention. And I think you know who I'm talking about.
I think I do.
So I was fortunate enough to be the manager who had to escort him from his room down to the back hallway.
How fortunate.
Very fortunate for me. And his bodyguard was with him, and the event planner was with him, and then myself and, of course, the celebrity. And we came down the back service elevator, so we're making a little small talk, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this celebrity's talking to me. Like, I can't believe it. And you just don't realize that these are just everyday people. They're just like everybody else. They have a job to do. They just happen to be very well known. Yeah. And they still expect those same accommodations of privacy and security and safety. So, it's important that we remember, while we may be a fan of these people and we would love to get pictures and autographs and all that.
That's a no-no.
Professionalism comes first.
It does.
Maintaining that boundary is important, and remembering that, you were fortunate enough to be in this line of work. We get to work with people like this, and to always remember that you must represent your hotel, your brand.
That's right.
And yourself.
That's right. They are looking to you for that sense of privacy. I've had many issues. I remember one that we had, and it's very common in the entertainment industry for these celebrities to eat their breakfast at 2:00 in the afternoon, and you have to accommodate that. Everything's closed, but this celebrity wants their personal chef to come into your personal kitchen and make their omelet because they don't trust anybody else. They don't feel comfortable with that, and so we make those kinds of unusual requests happen for them.
What's funny is that I had a similar celebrity who had that very same.
Maybe it's the same one.
Very particular. Like, he did not want from our kitchen. He had to have a certain style. So we actually had staff members that would go off property, get the specific items he wanted, the way he wanted it, and brought it back to him. And he absolutely had to make sure it was still sealed. He did not want it opened. I see.
Well, and that a lot of these, like, you get these celebrity things that they want from you. I can't remember now what it's called, but just a whole list of things that they expect. And sometimes they seem really crazy to us, but they all stem from something that's happened to them. That's been a very negative experience. So they feel like they have to cover all of these bases.
And that's part of it. We understand that, they're just here temporarily with us, but this is their life.
It is.
And very much something in the past at another property who may not have been as accommodating or could not, there could be many reasons, but the point is that this is what they want.
It is.
And it is our jobs to take care of them and their needs while they're here with us.
Absolutely.
Because they will remember that.
They will remember that. That's right. What kind of training do you think could go into these moments that might help any hotel evolve? What would you recommend? I know you've talked about the red binder. You've talked about maybe going over this monthly. Is there anything else that you would recommend?
Practice.
That's good. That's
Always
good.
do practice drills. Make sure you know where your meeting location for evacuations, where your team collecting, who is in charge of roster call, who's
Right.
making sure that everyone's safely out of the building.
Yes.
Those things matter. So practice, practice, practice.
Absolutely. Perfection isn't the goal, preparation is. And so
Absolutely,
that's how you prepare. Is that right?
that is
Because
exactly
when
right.
something happens, the guests don't remember the issue. They're going to remember how you overcame it.
Exactly.
And, sometimes you make a really great memory for a guest and they want to come back. They're like, you know what? I had a really terrible, what I thought could be a terrible experience at this hotel became memorable. And now I've got so much confidence in this hotel and I want to return. And that's what you want people to leave with, right?
Exactly. You want them
Yeah.
to remember how you treated them, not what
Hmm.
went wrong.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, that's going to be a wrap on this episode. We really have enjoyed bringing this episode of Lobby Talks to you. It's one of those subjects that's not always fun to talk about, crisis, but how you overcome it is definitely something that can be a, a point of growth for all of us, and not even just in the hospitality industry, just in our own lives. I mean, I find that the calm that I've had to overcome, or the calm I've had to develop in the hospitality industry, has really helped me in every episode. I mean, in every area of my life. So that's a good thing. What defines a hotel is not a lack of problems; it's the ability to solve those problems. And I just leave you all with remembering that. And Ray, do you have any final thoughts on the subject?
I think that the best way to prepare is, like you said, practice, practice,
Practice,
practice,
practice.
and know that no question should go unasked.
That's
If
right.
you have a question for something like this, emergency situations, please ask in advance because
Always,
preparation
always.
is key.
Yes, always. Well, thank you so much for joining us here at Lobby Talks. We really appreciate your time, and we look forward to welcoming you to the next episode, which will be Tulsa's Hidden Gems, of which we are one. Thank you all. Have a great day.